Russian gas is used to power factories, electricity plants, heating, all of those kinds of things. And Europe sees gas as a transition fuel to go from coal to greener sources of energy. We are seeing a huge increase in burning of coal in Europe as a result of efforts to reduce reliance on Russian gas. I should note that the European Union also imports a lot of coal from Russia, so that's also a dependency, though a different one. The move to green energy is not going to be smooth, and it's not going to be immediate. And there are also dependencies on metals, steel, and other things that are also imports from Russia. But in terms of the short term, the most immediate alternative to Russian gas is LNG supplies. So the Biden administration Biden was in Europe recently, and he made this promise to ship more US LNG to Europe. And that will help, but it's only a fraction of what Europe currently imports from Russia via pipeline. And it's more expensive, which is going to continue to make it quite painful for European consumers who are seeing, I think Britain has seen an over 50% increase in heating costs, gas costs in recent months. So that kind of pain is going to continue to be felt. But there's, currently Europe is running its import pipelines from Algeria and Norway at capacity, its LNG terminals at capacity. So the efforts that the European Union is trying to make to counter, so the market will react in one way to high prices, right? Companies are not going to necessarily want to fill storages when gas is extremely high, and when they suspect that Gazprom could potentially just flood the market with much cheaper gas at some point. So companies will not make these kinds of investments on their own. So the European Union has set up, is going to mandate that countries fill and companies fill their storages. They're also considering joint purchases of gas. So they're looking at different ways in which to ease market behavior that will aggravate the problem. None of these things are particularly easy, but I do think those kinds of measures, the promises of the Biden administration to not only ship US LNG, but also try to make diplomatic efforts to divert supplies that were intended for, say, Japan, or secure supplies from other places, are important, because it's such a big energy security crisis that having the government step in and help coordinate the behavior of companies and markets will maybe potentially ease some of the issues there. But it's going to be very painful. I mean, and Germany has been talking about rationing, and it's not, you can't overnight find a bunch of those supplies from other places. When it comes to longer term investment, there's a very different question there, and that is the EU's climate goals. So, building an LNG terminal that might take 2 years to build is one thing, and a big investment. But even that infrastructure is intended to have, to operate for 20 years' time. When you're talking about pipelines or development of greenfields, that's an even bigger investment for an even longer period of time. And Europe has indicated that it wants to accelerate its transition to greener forms of energy and decarbonize its economy. So there will be a reluctance still, I think, to invest in other ways to unlock new sources of gas, say